Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and we are at episode 29 of Evolve. Almost to that 30. I think that would be the special episode. I'll make sure I go over the roster. I was going to do it at 25, but then I decided, I want a little bit longer because it felt like they were really getting into the roster of, who's the solid people in it. And I figured, some of it's going to change because they are like 4 weeks behind in filming. So I know some of this rotates because I feel like in like Kendall Gray's case that she's probably fully on NXT now, but I could be wrong about that. So let's just jump into it. We started off with just kind of a random match, but I was not opposed to just that kind of randomness. It was a eight person tag match, three men, one woman, and man, that was great. It was Shawn Legacy, Tyra May Steele, Draco, and I forgot what the other, and Dante Chen. I don't know why I didn't think Dante Chen against the Vanity Project, which is kind of cool to be able to see most of the Vanity Project out there in one solid match. We never have gotten to see that, and it's kind of a cool thing if you're gonna have like a mixed faction. That it's kind of cool that you could actually see matches like that. The baby faces won. Little couple notes of on this one because there was quite a few things. I feel one, I'm very still confused about Tyra May still, like where she's at in the pecking order of things, because it's like one or two things. She was the LFG winner, so I think she either should be like running Evolve or given some time in NXT. Like she's supposed to get that contract to be on NXT right away, and they've used her sparingly up there. She had the one disastrous match, and then they brought her in there for the whole like American thing. And I know this is like technically filmed like 3 4 weeks ago, so it was probably around that time that she got called back up to NXT, so this might have been her last match. That's why I'm like been waiting for that 30th one to know where everybody kind of fits, and I kind of feel like this was like her last Evolved match. If not, she should be right going to the moon trying to do some stuff, because she's obviously like the biggest or bigger dame on the women's division, and I think she's pretty solid. She can go toe to toe with the guys. She did a great job here. Shawn Legacy, I think, was the star out of everybody. Vanity Project was a solid unit. I think obviously you got Swipe Right in the middle of all that with being a great tag team. It worked out great. Bryce Donovan did some decent stuff. I feel like he's a little clunky out there, but I don't think it's him necessarily. I just think it's the matches they normally put him in. They normally have him like in that like big kind of monster role, and he never really gets the chance to like show anything else. So hopefully that will change, especially with what segments we get later on. But I thought this was solid match. I'd put it in A. I thought it was really fun. I thought they did really good. It wasn't too long, wasn't too light. I think they just did everything about perfect on there. Obviously, there could be stuff to change with it. Dante Chen, again, another one that's really good. I like his moveset. I just wish that some of the stuff he does, like, had a little bit more power behind it. I know you obviously want to be safe, but like you can tell that he's a little tentative on some of those like strikes to really like full force it. I think if he just went at it and like figured it out of not hurting anybody with it, they look so much better, and I think he would look so much better. So I think he's like right in that middle. He probably was like the second weakest on the team because I feel like Draco really didn't get to do much. But like I still feel like Dante Chen has a huge potential. And like I said, Vandy Project on the entire side did great. All four of them. So I think A is a solid spot. I'd probably put pretty much everybody in that match except for maybe Dante Chen and Draco in the A category. They would probably solid Bs. So like I said, just a really good match. Then we had a tag match. It was Iskall and Jamal Hampton versus Aaron Roque and Marshall Mathers. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of like either team to a certain extent. Aaron Roque and Marshall Mathers just doesn't seem like a team. Like they don't even seem like they're like friends or anything. They just kind of seem thrown together. Their move set kind of has some type of synchrony. So like I can kind of see that's probably why they do it. But honestly, I think like their personalities and their gimmicks are just nowhere near. At least with the Jomar Hampton and Itzgall fan, I don't really like Itzgall, but I don't mind the pairing. It kind of fits. They're kind of like muscle heads, but Jamar Hampton's kind of like he's like, oh, I'm just kind of like a nice guy, and then now he's kind of doing dickheaded things to like fit in with Itzgall. So I kind of like that. This match honestly wasn't too bad. It was pretty solid. I really feel like they should have really focused in on giving the team of Rourke and Morales more like high flying abilities because they're really good at it, but they kind of like had to pull it back to kind of like strength and stuff moves for the other two. Even if they were going to still lose the match, I think like they could have just let them do a little bit, like unwind a little bit more, and I think it would have made the match much better. I put it in B. Solid match though. Like, hey, anytime I say in any of these reviews, if you're in the B or above, you're doing good. I really think you are. Then we get Tate Wilder, who has just been struggling to catch my attention. They're really force feeding this man on us, and they even put him with Sean Legacy to really hone it in that they're really trying to make this guy work. Honestly, it's just not it for me. It's nothing really against him. I think he's a nice guy. His wrestling's pretty decent, but I feel like with his gimmick and his attitude and all of that only works is that if he's just phenomenally this out there with the mic skill or with the in-ring skill. I don't think he's there. Obviously, it's evolved, so there's some different stuff like people are trying to learn and get that type of stuff. So I'm not going to be too harsh on him, but just personally, I don't like his gimmick and stuff. Like, I still think he has potential. I mean, everybody here does. I don't think there's been a wrestler yet that I've seen and just been like, this person is terrible, get them off the show. I think everybody has gone out there and done good things. And even if their gimmick is not really what it was or like their work, I think they're still working on it. So I still think there's hope, but at the moment, it's just not my favorite thing. So I'm going to put it in D. Then we get a nice Vanity Project backstage segment where they're kind of blaming people for the loss. And then, Bryce Donovan and Jackson Drake get into it. And seems like Bryce Donovan's going to turn on him and go after the title. I like the story. I kind of like Vanity Project a lot, so I hope it's a few more episodes down the line, but I really don't mind if it happens, especially if these core fours stay together and Bryce Donovan does his own thing. Because Bryce Donovan's always been that odd one out that, like, he fits in a way for what they're doing, but if he's not there, I don't think you lose everything, and he could get a nice little babyface turn, which we really don't have, like, much turning of like faces in this type of show because obviously most of the time it's just turning heels that people care about. I like the segment. I'm interested to see what they do. It's a pretty decent storyline, so I'm gonna put it up in S tier. Then we have Callie Armstrong backstage talking about who she's gonna face next, and then they have Wendy Chu pass her. Honestly, like, if Wendy Chu would have won the main event, this would have made a lot of sense. I kind of didn't understand it. Like, I felt like there could have been somebody else teased, because obviously it shouldn't be Wendy Chu. It should be Kendall Gray after this if she stays on the show, but I don't really understand necessarily why they did that. The rest of the stuff, she was fine. I don't think there was anything too crazy. I like being able to see our champions. I think in a show like this is maybe a weird thing to say, but this is something that I would die on the heel. Because how Evolve is set up, it's set up in that hour. Pretty much in that hour, if there's not a title match, we should see both titles in some way. Backstage, walking around, in the ring. Something should have us have those titles. There should be something said about either title, if not both. Both titles should be on the screen. So we saw Jackson Drake in this beginning of the show on the apron, like working with Vanity Project. We saw him with the title, saw him in the backstage thing. We got the interview, Callie Armstrong title. Perfect. If you're not going to have a title match, this is what you need to do. I just feel like it's a weird thing to die on, but the problem with this type of thing where you're trying to build star power, you also have to build the star power of these titles because yes, they're really important and they're really good for Evolve, but you got to make them want something that NXT people that are at the bottom of the card would actually come down there and actually be fighting for. If it's just you're a triple A team, or a double A team, and you're just going down there, nobody's going down there to win the double A championship, like baseball, thing. So it's stuff like that. I think it's a weird gripe, but when they do it well, they do it well, and they did it good here. I'm never going to gripe with at least seeing our champion, so we'll see how that goes. Then we had Kendall Gray versus Wendy Chu in an I Quit match. This was a really fun match. Obviously, I Quit matches could go either way of being either really ridiculous or anything. Honestly, my only big gripe about it is that about 70% of the match from start to when towards the very end, the chair was just a terrible prop to use. I love chairs. Chairs are almost one of the best weapons out there other than like tables. Putting somebody through a table is always top tier. But I feel like what they were doing with some of the hits and all that kind of just didn't feel brutal, and they didn't really like have that, which is fine because some people, you want to be safe and you don't want to make it look bad, or maybe you can't make it look super great. But they shouldn't have done that. A kendo stick, something else, would have been better than using the chair that just kind of felt like it didn't have much of a place. Now, later on, with it being like trapped in the, when Kendall Gay got it trapped on her head in front of the corner, and then when she got it to be put on way to choose arm, and she was able to drop on it to give her that advantage at the end, that was how you used it perfectly. But if you erase that first part, it would have made the match altogether better. And I've struggled thinking about this match back and forth. I honestly really liked it. I really did. I really was like, didn't know where to put it in S or A tier. And more I think about it, being the first I Quit match and just everything about it, I really think it's an S tier match. It's probably in the top 5 of all the matches that we've had so far in Evolve, which, if you guys want to comment below, I could do, maybe like a top 5 best matches and top 5 worst matches that go over, and I'd have to think about it because there's definitely been some good matches and there's definitely been some stinkers. So we could do something like that if you guys are interested. Obviously, after the 30 episode, I'm going to rank every person who's showed up in Evolve, and basically rank them from S to D. So we'll be doing that too. So if you like that type of stuff, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's been Japan, and I hope you guys have a good whatever day, night, whatever day fate it is for you. But yeah, bye guys.